No, I don't interview people. I don't like interviews.
I didn't think you were.
I don't like
I was
interviews.
like,
Okay, okay. Boom! Look, that's Sonia.
what? Oh.
Alright, so, ladies and gentlemen, what's your,
What?
what's your name?
What's my name? It's Sonia.
What's your name?
Hi, I'm Sonia Mena. Sonia Mena, 5'5.5". I'm based in Los Angeles.
I was talking to an interrogator and a hostage negotiator, and he was talking about one of the easiest ways to get people to talk, or in order for rapport building, is just ask someone, what's 3 things that you could just talk about endlessly. So I started calling it the big 3. And then my 3 are movement, music, and food. I could talk about those forever. And I could also talk about my love for sirens. All right.
So you're trying to interrogate me is what we're getting at. This is like a hostage, like,
I'm going to,
like...
one of us is going to hold one of us hostage, and then the other one of us is going to try to talk that person into letting us.
Do we ever figure out who's holding who's hostage? Or
No.
is it just like a
And in the end, it's a game called Who's Holding Who Hostage. So
yeah, I'm down from 10. Who's holding who's hostage?
So while
who's holding who hostage?
So while you're holding me hostage using a fake accent, I'm gonna grab that guitar and start playing shitty folk songs, and then basically both of us are just gonna be like, you know what?
You just described my entire college experience.
Let's call it a draw. I just described a lot of people's art school experience. All right. What are your big 3?
Fuck, I don't know. I can swear, right? I don't know.
Of course.
I'm very nervous.
Swear. Don't be nervous. You're Sonia.
I mean, yeah, I could talk about food for a while. I could definitely talk about like acting and theater and art and stuff like that for a long time. I don't know what the third one is. I feel like I'll figure it out.
You don't have 3? Mind, body, spirit. What do you do for your mind?
Well, like lately, like nothing. Like I feel like that's sort of been like the weird thing about like living with my parents right now. It's because I'm a very, I'm like a very hyperactive person, but like to be able to contain myself in a small place and like not go anywhere, and my mind is just like not really like.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna go to movement.
Okay.
And then, but movement is, I'm gonna blow your mind. Just kidding. I'm going the other side of movement. You came from here.
Yeah.
You experienced your first taste of freedom in New York.
Yeah.
And then by the time movement started happening and you started getting like work and television shows and all that stuff, then the movement stopped due to Jesus created COVID.
Right. Yeah. Which like, thanks Jesus,
yeah.
I guess.
And then that happened. And so then now you're back here, but then you're moving. So you've actually experienced a lot of movement, but the movement is just trying to create movement again. Mm-hmm. How's that?
Weird. Interesting. It's weird being back. It's weird deciding to move back. Because like when I came back, I was like, oh, I'm just here for the summer. And then like, now that I'm like, I'm going to live in LA, I'm going to be a Californian, I'm like realized, I got really sad when I decided it, because I was like, wow, so much of my identity for the past like 9 years has been like, I'm a kid from California, like toughing it out on the East Coast, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like I don't have a lot of family out here, like just like battling it out. And then like being back here, there's like a innate, like there's something about me where it's like, oh, I'm just like from here. There's like a certain like thing about myself that's like more relaxed, or it's like, just like being in Oakland or being around the Bay, I'm like, this just like makes sense to me. And I'm
the comfort.
Which I like have realized. For a long time, I was like, it's like why I hate it. We've talked about it. It's like I hate California because everyone's like, just be comfortable.
Yeah. Bliss. Follow your bliss.
Yeah. Which is like, I was like 18. I was like, I don't want to follow my bliss. I want to get my ass kicked.
Right.
But I'm realizing now that, well, 2 things. One, I don't feel the need to suffer just for suffering's sake, which is like a lot of what New York is. Mm-hmm. But I also recently... I started taking this acting class, and it was very like it was very positive. It was very like praisey, and I like hated it at the beginning. So I was like, "Stop fucking coddling me and like tell me I'm dumb." Like,
yell at me, abuse me,
fix it,
make me want to please you,
fix it. Yeah. I'm always like looking for somebody to like care enough or be like smart enough to be like, here's the thing you're missing, and here's how we're gonna fix it. And I realized I was like, oh, it's actually like so healing to like be praised for good work. because I think it's so difficult, like, throwing yourself out there. And I was like, this is actually, like, there's, like, it feels like a new opening, like, a new phase of my life. And not where I'm like, woohoo, yay, we're all happy and forever. But I'm like, it's, like, it's okay to like your own shit. And that's, like, an important part of, you know, development also. And I think that that's part of, like, California. It's, like, it's okay to, like where you're from. It's okay to be comfortable where you're from. You don't have to constantly be, like, going somewhere to, like, prove that you're something. That, like, the next phase is kind of being like, I'm from here, and that's, like, and I like that.
There's a thing about the acting world. I noticed this in the difference between the Chinese actors that I was or the Chinese stunt team, and then the American. The Chinese team is once they chose you, once you made it onto the team, it was all support, and it was just coaching. So it was never beating you up. It was always coaching you because you made the team look good. And in the Western side of it, it was you were constantly having to hold your ground because there's a million people and they're ready to replace you at any second.
Right.
And so I think there's a difference between being coached and then just being, like, relentlessly judged, and they're trying to beat you down to where you try to please them, and then...
Right, because I think, and we've talked about this, but I think there was, like, a really weird thing with, like, when I first got to New York, and, like, it was true, like, I didn't totally know what I was doing, and also people were like, you don't know what you're doing, and it was, like, there was a phase in which it was, like, important to work for free, and then it was, like, I know enough to not work for free, but people still want to, you know, not pay you, so they kind of, like, keep telling you that you don't know enough to get paid. And then, like, once I started booking, like, real jobs and, like, you know, like, having an agent and manager and everything, people were like, oh, you know what you're doing? And I was like, no, like, nothing's changed. Like, I still don't know. Like, you know what I mean? And that, like, it's not like there's, like, a moment where somebody hands you a diploma and goes, like, all right, now you learned it and you're a professional. It just kind of, like, happens. But you're the same person. You know?
Yeah, and that's why we always so many people fall into imposter syndrome, because you just sit there and you're just like, why am I making it when my roommate is actually better than, like, so many people are just sitting there like, I know this person, they're, like, the best I've ever seen, and why am I getting all the work?
Right.
But sometimes, I mean, I've had people tell friends of mine, like, you're never gonna make it in that world because I've had people say you're too pretty, because, like, why is any woman gonna hire you to be on stage next to them because you know what I mean? I've had people say that to people that I know. I've had people tell them it's always you're too this or you're too this, or I've had people tell people they're too smart. But then, did you read Tina Fey's book?
No.
Bossy Pants?
Yeah, I've seen it around, but I've never.
She's my Hollywood crush, right?
Really?
Tina Fey.
I didn't know that. Do you love 30 Rock?
Yeah, I love anything Tina Fey.
Yeah.
And then
she's so funny.
Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. I haven't seen all of them, but, like, I love the Kimmy Schmidt girl.
Oh yeah.
She is. I loved her in The Office. I love everything
really
about her. She's special. So beautiful and talented and great. Yeah. But she, in her book, it was talking about Lorne Michaels was saying, like, it doesn't really matter how funny you are. It's like, I gotta want to cross paths with you at 3:00 in the morning on a Friday.
Yep.
When we've been here for 20 hours straight, and I'm stressed out, and I want to be able to see you.
Yeah. And
be okay with that.
Right.
So it doesn't matter how funny you are. It doesn't matter how talented you are. I gotta want to work with you.
Right.
So, just saying, thanks for the cat mug.
You're welcome.
And it's those kind of details why you're gonna be
That's
totally
why
gonna
I'm
make
going
it.
Places. That's why I'm gonna be somebody because of the cat mugs.
Yeah. So, but you're moving to LA. Moving to LA for work, or moving to LA because there is work?
Neither.
What's happening?
Which is also very unusual for me. I think every move that I've made has been very much of, like, work. Something has to do with work. This is solely because my friends are down there.
Okay.
That's it. Because everything's digital, so it doesn't really matter where you are so long as you're close enough to easily get to New York or LA. So yeah.
What were you working on? What was the TV show you did? TV show or movie?
Oh, I was working on The Deuce for a while.
The Deuce.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's pretty sick.
I like that. Yeah. And then you, hold on. Let's talk about while that's going on.
Yeah.
Let's talk about crystal meth.
Okay. Actually, that was the third. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, crystal meth is my third.
Dude. This is the story of my life right now.
What is that?
Okay. When you do crystal meth.
But I do really one that generally use.
Yeah, you're gonna need to make money, and so the people outside are making money through cutting down metal chunks. Hold on 1 second. Want to see some off camera work?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. I taught him all everything that he knows that what you're about to witness. I taught him this. Scary yell. Some scary call.
No problem.
I was like a mouse. I was like, psst.
Oh, hey, kitty. Yeah, so. There's a young man out there. They've decided I'm asking them to move their encampment down the road.
You asked them to move? Or?
I asked them. I said, they're having to cut up a lot of stuff, but they just cut up metal.
Uh-huh.
They cut up right outside, right there. And when you do meth, a lot of times you sleep till this time. They're just getting up now, and then they oftentimes won't start until like 10 at night.
Oof.
And I'm lucky that I have a good relationship with them, and I employ some of them, and so I'll like walk down, and I'm just like what I did. I'm lucky that when I go, hey, like they're like, oh, sorry about, like.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't expecting. I was like, what is he gonna do?
Just because I just tell them like, hey, I'm recording, or I'm trying to sleep, or something like that. So, anyways, all right. So you're on the deuce.
Yes.
You're working your keister off, and you've been here, and you've been self-taping. How is self-taping?
It's really interesting. Sometimes it's with my dad or my mom. Sometimes.
Wait, they're holding the camera?
No. I have a tripod and everything, but I need a reader. So that sometimes you got so excited. Yeah, sometimes it's my parents. Which then they get my mom in particular gets so excited, and then it solely becomes about her doing
it's about her.
And I'm like, okay. It's like, she's like, do I need to fix my hair? I'm like, you literally aren't. No one can, no one can see you.
How would you feel if your mom ended up getting the job?
Yeah, super proud. Just kidding. No, but a lot of times it's with people on Zoom, so sometimes it's sort of a weird thing because it's always been a facet of it, but now it's everything, and so it's crazy because the amount of labor that I need to export to people either through favors or paying coaches is just crazy. I'm just like, can you help me with the blood? Can you help me with
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been trying to, I'm realizing that with Zoom, it's I just forget that it's a person that I'm talking. I really have to I have to physically sit there and be like, that is Jessie, and she's actually, imagine that Jessie is actually in the room right here, because it's very different talking to you in the room right now versus a screen and being oh, it's just this thing, you know?
Yeah. That's why I'm not doing anything like that. I'm doing this.
Right.
I'll do talks, but I won't, I'm not really teaching or anything.
Yeah, but you used to do that, right? You used to do the private, you were I can do it.
So what I do is, for example, if you were doing Yama series, you would do a private session with me, and we would go over the first line.
Yeah.
And then I would send you the video.
Okay.
And then you could watch it, and then the next time we would Zoom, I'd be only 15-20 minutes. I'm do you have any questions? Yeah. And then I'll walk you through it. Yeah. But I don't I'm not going to train you or coach you. Mm-hmm. I think it's important for us. This is why I I've known you since you were in high school.
I know, I was thinking about this morning. I was I've known you for over 10 years, which is nutty.
Yeah, I'd met you when you were 14, 15, something like that?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't know each other that well until I think I was more 18.
Yeah, because you were in she was in a dance, but wasn't just.
Oh wait, by the way, we've just been friends.
Yeah, we've just been friends. I was yeah.
I was talking about you because I was oh, I'm going to see my friend Matt. And I was at my brother's house with his girlfriend. Yeah. And he's who's Matt? I was oh, he's a friend from Destiny. He's oh, did I know him from Destiny? We kept going back and forth, be oh, Destiny this, Destiny that. And finally his girlfriend was what does that mean? A friend from Destiny.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, it's an art.
Yeah.
It's not like he's destined, although maybe.
Yeah, maybe we were destined. But yeah, so Destiny Arts, you were in the performance company, and I was one of the guys.
Yeah.
Teaching. I was teaching.
Yeah.
And you were performing.
Yes. In fact, I remember the first time that I like interacted with you, because I'd seen you around. You taught us how to like do that thing where you like we like put the little kids on our shoulders and then like.
Oh yeah, yeah. You guys did the Chinese acrobatics with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like very nervous. And you're like, no, it's fine. You're like, if you drop them, it's totally chill. Just go for it.
Yeah.
I thought of my third thing. I think it's relationships. I was like, it's sort of like overarching, but like both like people, but also like thinking about like how you can affect people's minds and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, but that's acting.
I guess so. Yeah.
And all right, so for me, and this is what Destiny taught. Working in an art center, was it made me realize like dancers like, and you've heard me complain about this a lot. Like when like dance coaches will walk into a room and be like everyone can dance, right? And a singing coach would walk in and be like everyone has a voice, right? Acting coaches would be like everyone can act. But me, I was like.
Say that.
I was like, okay, good. Okay, good. Yeah. Because no, they can't. And dancing people, they would always tell me like, Matt, you can move, you can dance. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't dance. I don't dance. I just, it's not my. I mean, watch this. I can play that. That's how I dance. Right? It's all in the. It's from here up.
You rollerblade. You do all your like you.
Like, I roller skate.
Don't let he could dance.
I do not rollerblade.
This has just become like like a battle of like who is more compelling to the audience right now. No, he can dance. You're like, no, I can't.
But it's the whole thing of like, so when I say movement, I used to say martial arts, but movement is like whatever. Could be rollerblading for you, Sonia, rollerblading through New York.
Why are you so mad at rollerblading versus
I can't do rollerblades.
Is that because like the guys who rollerblade are like really like cool? Like they're like, what's up? They like skate on it.
I think you're I think you're too anything that you're this is why I don't like soccer. Anytime you're too into something, like I'm just like, what's up with it? Like
you live in a dojo.
Yeah, but I'm not
super into
Yeah, but you don't hear me I'm not like running around like in a like with my headband on and shit. You know what I mean? It's like this is closed doors, and then when I'm done, I'm always training to be capable somewhere else. So okay, so movement could be martial arts, could be rollerblading, it could be dancing. You do a lot, and then we have, for me, music. But then I'm not an evangelist for music, so it's art. So let's talk about art. What have you been into?
Oh. That's an interesting question. Again, I feel like the answer right now is like nothing.
It's hard. Has it been hard to be inspired in all this?
Yes. Well, yes. I mean, at the beginning, I was like super busy, and I like learned how to edit and made like a bajillion hours of children's TV content, and like had this moment too where like because I was like in such a crazy pressure cooker, and then I didn't have like it had no deadlines, and you know I mean like basically like when I was in New York it was like it was like okay I gotta learn my lines now, like just an endless like cycle of just like learning going out learning, and so I was like wow I can just like make anything, it's like so easy, but it was also with people like so I think it's really hard for me to make stuff alone without I need like humans around me to to connect. But I saw a Zoom play, actually a good Zoom play, shocking, of this show that I had seen in New York a long time ago called Heroes of the Fourth Turning. And it's just about like 4 or 5 kids at like a college reunion, you know, like 6-10 years later. And they all went to like a super Christian college, and they're just like in a backyard talking about like Jesus and abortion and all this stuff, and they're just like fucking brilliant and super smart and incredibly eloquent, but it's like crazy. It was crazy to watch it in New York. It was crazy to watch it here, particularly now, because I think when you aren't around that kind of people, or you just like have this assumption that it's like, they're just like rednecks, and it's like, no, they're scholars, they're brilliant, but they're saying things that like shake me to my core and feel so wrong, and it was like interesting to watch it. in New York. It was interesting to watch it again right now. But yeah.
What's it called?
Heroes of the Fourth Turning.
All right. Heroes of the Fourth Turning. A Zoom play. I didn't even think... I just saw a really cool music video. No, I can't remember it. I'm going to find it. And but it was like a Zoom video. And it was like, this one. Asian Girl. It's an amazing song. I'll find it and send it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like people are getting creative. I love it when people are getting creative with something, but at the same time, it's like, just like, I only want you to be so creative with Zoom. You know?
Well, this was like great because they're all they're outside, and all of their screens were black, so it did look like they were all in one space. And it's also a play that's like 100% about the text, so it's very easy to like
to do it
in that way. But yeah, no, I agree, because I've done a handful of Zoom things to varying degrees of success, some of which have been great and some of which haven't. But yeah, at a certain point you're like, it's only so funny how many times you can pass a bottle from like a screen to the other screen and make big.
Wait, what?
You don't know.
Oh, that was good. Yeah, wait, but that was the same cup. That didn't count.
What? Oh, you wanted to do it.
Never mind. Never mind.
Okay.
Cat mug.
Cat mug.
Here, want some tea?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to tell you something.
There's no left, though.
Oh, shit. I learned something about tea.
Yeah.
So speaking of art,
Yes.
I had a guy on here and he taught me about tea ceremony. And what he taught me was, this tea I think is one of the ones he gave me, is every tea you can keep pouring the water in, and what you try to do is you sit down and you just have your conversation in your moment until the tea goes through its whole cycle until it's water again.
Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm. And so some teas, like, depending on maybe the time of day or the relationship with the person.
Yeah.
Like the one that he and I had, we drank 3.5 or 4 gallons of tea. And so this tea was good for like 20 different steepings, right? We just sat there for hours just hanging out.
That's great.
Really cool.
I love that. So like if you're really mad at somebody, you get like the weakest tea you can find, and you're like, oh yeah, let's like hang out.
This tea's weak, like our relationship.
Then, oh no, it's water already. Oh, sorry. Okay, gotta go bye.
You just literally pour them some water.
You have a big ass crush on somebody. It's like the strongest. You just pack it to the top. Just keep pouring the tea in. You're like, oh, stay.
Yeah. So what he taught me was, speaking of relationships, is when you do the tea, you pour like water on the thing on the what is the teapot? The teapot.
Yeah.
On the cups. Mm-hmm. But this is the problem with us. And we get these big ass cups.
Right.
Right. So I don't know. It's not as personal, right? Because we're not always pouring each other.
Right. Well, there's something nice too about pouring things for like to serve. I always think there's something about when people serve each other, especially when it's so casual. It just like warms my heart. I don't know why. Yeah. It's like one of those small like kind gestures where I'm like, it tells you something about a person.
Well, this is why I, when I was working with those people at Tesla, when I was upset at Elon Musk for not putting a volume knob in his car.
What?
Well, there's not a volume knob in a Tesla.
Really?
Right?
I've never been in a Tesla. Okay. Do I look like I've been in a Tesla?
Yeah, you do, actually.
Oh my God, thank you
You're
so
welcome.
Much. Humble brag.
And you were fishing for that one. Do I look like I've been in a couple Teslas this week? Guess who drives a Tesla?
Who?
Charles.
Really?
Yeah, he has a Tesla. But there's no volume knob in it. But like, think about in relationships, just like pouring someone a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Think about like if you and I were driving.
Yeah, you turn it down when they're talking.
Yeah.
When the phone rings, you turn it. How do you turn it down? Is it on the steering wheel?
It's either on the steering wheel or you scroll through a series of hand gestures and magician your way and the kind of so. But if you think about it, like, imagine we're driving and then you say something interesting and then you just reach over and you turn it down.
Yeah.
And now we're having a conversation, and that's like a pretty big gesture, like to me. And then, but then you're driving with someone and maybe you're kind of crushed out on them or something, and all of a sudden a cool song comes on, and they just reach over and they kind of turn it up a little bit.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Oh, totally.
It's a big deal. But if they don't have access to that...
Nope. Just erase that whole human interaction. Or if you get social anxiety and then you spend like 5 minutes thinking, should I turn down the music or not? But if you don't even have that option, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. Or you could just be the person you're like... car, turn down, and you could just announce your intentions. Right? How do you feel about, this is something that I've always thought about. I think that in 10 years, since we're all going to be using voice commands, I don't like fake accents. I feel we're all going to have one homogenized accent, which is us speaking very monotone and loudly, like we're trying to talk to someone.
The saddest thing that you've ever said to me. But it's not a crazy thing to think about.
Think about it.
The transatlantic thing is such an interesting, I don't know. It's like, where did it? I don't really know. I've always wondered, where did the transatlantic thing come from? It was like a Hollywood.
What is that?
Transatlantic accent. You know how old Hollywood movies they talk in this weird way.
They talk. Yeah.
That's the transatlantic. It's because the accents were so much more regional than they are now, that it was like that's the way you talk. That's like. Everyone can, and it's also like it's from nowhere. Like nobody actually talks that way. It's something that you learn. And I wonder. I have no idea what the origins of it are, but that's definitely a thing. And it's like the same thing with music. I feel like too, in which it's like, and you were talking about this. It's like when you couldn't get access to different, you couldn't just Google something. Like sound was so specific to where you were.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was when the Clear Channel bought up, because there was a thing. I think Ronald in the Reagan days. I don't know if it was him that I'm so ignorant when it comes to this shit, but there was a thing where you couldn't own more than 6 stations or something like that.
Yeah.
Because to monopolies, right?
Right.
And he wiped that out. Someone got rid of that. So then Clear Channel just went off and just bought radio.
Yeah.
So it went from, you could be in Alabama driving, because I've driven around this country countless times.
Yeah.
And you could be down here and you're driving, then you go up north, and it's like there was music that only existed in certain areas, and you just go to these places. But then when Clear Channel bought it, there's just like a beep boop computer with its playlist, and it just went out to every radio station that they owned. And there's Clear Channel, Viacom. There's only a couple companies that own that. That's why radio became so homogenized. And then in order to get on that PlayStation or on that playlist, you kind of needed to pay them. Right. And that's when the payola stuff happened.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's going on right now with Spotify.
I'm sure. I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I always get mad at my Spotify because whenever they have the recommended music for me, it's always really lame. And I'm like, why do you think this of me?
Oh, okay.
Why do you think I'm so lame?
What is it with, do you ever regret your ironic searches when you're trying to ironically search a song, and then next thing you know, people are suggesting "Don't Mess With My Toot Toot" by...
I don't even know anymore, because I once had this really amazing professor when I was in college who was a theater critic, very famous theater critic for The Guardian, who had a whole class where she was like, everyone just bring in your guiltiest pleasures. And we're all going to go around the room and everyone talk about the fact that you love Gossip Girl unironically or whatever. And she was the whole point of this is because she was talking about when she went to the opening of Mamma Mia, it was so joyful, and you just was so much fun, and yet all these theater critics were there and they were just clenched, and they were I don't know what to do, because this is just undebatably just a wonderful experience, but it's not art. It's not high art.
Yeah.
And so if you like something, then you like something, and then that's it. You just like it. So.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Oh gosh, it's endless. I watch a lot of television. I just rewatched Gilmore Girls for the 3rd time probably. I don't know if this is a guilty pleasure, but I came very, very late to liking. I didn't listen to Hamilton until I saw Hamilton, but I didn't see Hamilton until a year ago, and so then I went through that phase where I listened to it way too late, very not cool.
I did a reaction video to me listening to Hamilton.
And?
It sounded like, it reminds me of how people in Sonoma and Napa make Indian food. Like, Indian
I don't
food.
think I've ever had Indian food.
Right, it's before. Like yellow and creamy and good for keep it safe. Mm-hmm. And it was just really hard for me to get wrapped a history lesson. I guess.
Yeah.
But it also reminded me. I guess I was also bouncing back from. We do math tutoring in here. There's some math tutoring that goes on in here. Yeah. And
Matt's math tutoring at the open mat. Math tutoring at the open mat with Matt. I know.
Right, yeah. Oh. Okay, so yeah, we do some math tutoring out here. And they're trying to make it hip.
Yeah.
So like, they're like, all right, so for this lesson, and then they would like hit play, and then it was like a math rap. And so I just felt like I was just getting a history tutoring session.
I saw it in San Francisco, and the cast was like unbelievable. So I feel like that's probably like I don't know if I'd listen, and also like being just in that whole world, it's like such a thing that But I was in math it wasn't remedial math. Like just to be like for the record, it wasn't remedial math, but it was like math for people who don't like math, and so it was all word problems. But we would learn like calculus and stuff as like word problems, and we would spend months being like, there's a Ferris wheel, and there's a man that's like, there's a clown on the Ferris wheel, and he's going off, and then he's like, what? And then this is how fast the Ferris wheel is going, but there's a tub of water, and the tub is going this fast, and when does he need to jump off to like, and it was like, I don't know that this is
it's like
math better.
there's a Ferris wheel, and there's a man going up, and he's going up at 11 miles per hour. So what's up with that?
He's about to propose to his girlfriend, but there's a tub of water, and he thinks maybe I'll just jump.
Yeah. All right. So what are you listening to?
I've been listening to let's see. Been listening to my friend Ellen just dropped a new album, which is pretty great.
Ellen who?
Ellen Winter.
Ellen Winter.
She's great. This group called the Banksons, who are like a big musical theater duo in New York City, but like folk musical theater. Don't look at me like that.
You know about my musical theater is intense for me.
Okay. Like in a good way or a bad way?
I've tried.
Okay. I don't like that's not the musicals I like.
And when they talk like this,
it's very confusing.
And it fucks with my mind.
No, it's very weird.
Okay.
They make very beautiful, like, folky musical shit. They just made this song that I don't really know how to explain it, but it's like very cathartic and beautiful, and I've been driving around and like listening to it and just being like this summer I've really gotten into the this is all like my guilty pleasures. This is like all my music has been. I've gotten really into the reggaeton channel, so like a lot of Bad Bunny.
All right.
To a lot of Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny. Reggaeton? Mm-hmm. Reggaeton's aggressive.
100.7 all summer. Just been driving around like na 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 na, and then sometimes I'm like so into it, and I'm like at a stoplight, and like this is my only chance to go to the club, you know? This is my only chance to dance. Sorry, do you want me to wait so you can?
No. You're doing great.
Oh, it's so dark.
Yeah, hold on.
So yeah, reggaeton. I'll be like this is my chance to go to the club is what I was trying to tell you. Like I used to dance. I used to go out dancing all the time. We can't do that anymore, so it's just me driving in my car blasting 100.7 and then like getting down, and then I forget that people can see me, because even though I'm in my own world, there are windows that are clear, and so I'll be like vibing, and then I like look to my left and some dude's just like
when you reggaeton, I am.
Where do you reggaeton?
So when you're reggaetoning.
When you're reggaetoning.
Alone in your car. Mm-hmm. Do you know all the words, or are you just getting into it? I've learned a lot of them,
but I don't know the words to any song. Like I don't even think that I can sing a Beatles song all the way through. Like, I'm not confident that I could. And so then, especially because it's in Spanish, my Spanish is so-so. It's fine, but not amazing. It's truly... There is a song that I thought for a full month and a half was about a foot fetish. because he kept saying "tengo fantasías de tu." I thought he said "piel." He was saying "piel," which is skin, which makes a lot more sense, and it was kind of sexy. Like, I have fantasies about your skin, but I thought he was like, "I have fantasies about your feet." And I was and you're he's so proud about his fetish right now. He's not even a little bit embarrassed.
Okay, do you want to know one of my guilty pleasures?
Yeah.
Not liking the Beatles.
Okay.
I have not...
That doesn't count as a guilty pleasure that you don't like something.
I
feel like that's you just being contrary.
No, it's... I like it because, like, when I say it, there's always someone that goes, thank you. I don't either. And,
okay, I get it.
And I find great pleasure in that because I cannot... Just like I talk a lot of shit about Bruce Lee, but I don't like the Beatles.
Yeah.
But I can still say that as a person that respects the shit out of the Beatles. Because as a musician, you can not respect the Beatles. So, like, I really can't say anything bad about the Beatles other than just when they come on, I don't fucking like it. Yeah, okay. I don't like it. I had the White Album. I think that was, like, the best thing that they did. And I liked Happiness is a Warm Gun. But and I also can safely say it because I try all the time. Like, I have all of their stuff. I've sat through it. And every time it comes on, it makes me mad. Like... There's nothing the Beatles do that doesn't... Like, when the Beatles come on, I actually get mad.
Do you think that's because you've heard it so much?
No, I don't know where that comes from.
Because I never listened to the Beatles. Because, like, why would I need... Like, I already listened to... I'm good.
Yeah, that's like when you grew up in Florida. Like, I knew every Jimmy Buffett song.
Yeah.
Before I'd ever heard Jimmy... You know, it's like I'd never heard Jimmy Buffett, but you hear every bar... is always playing Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah.
As a band. Always.
I have such a weird relationship with the Beatles and stuff because to me that's like childhood music. That's like lullabies. Yeah. Which I guess is not weird if you're in California, but like going out, especially like on the East Coast, and people who like found the Beatles, and I'm like, oh yeah, this like reminds me of being 4, and they're like, what?
Yeah. So I was more into black music, I guess. I was more into soul music.
Yeah.
So when I hear the Beatles, I just hear, like, I don't know. It's just something that doesn't do it for me. I like the blues and I liked R&B and I like hip hop and I liked so many other things when I was a kid. And then by the time I was able to like buy my own records, I was into like metal and punk and tape trading and all these other things. And my dad was he had radio stations, so he was a program director for these radio stations. So we had access to all kinds of music, and I was never drawn to that kind of music.
That's how I feel about like the Beach Boys. Every time it comes on, I'm like, and then people are like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "It's just that to me." I was like, I like a lot of, you know, I can get down with some twee white music, but that shit, I'm like, this is so white. Turn it off.
the only thing that I like, from a songwriter perspective, I sit around and I'm like, how can you write that many songs that are that catchy in a row? Like, that's the only thing that freaks me out about the Beach Boys.
Oh, yeah?
Like, because you're like Barbara Ann, and then Do Run Run, and then fucking, you know, Little Dupe Scoop, and you're just, and God Only Knows, and you're just sitting there. It's like, you couldn't not write the catchiest song. You know, it's like, it's sort of like one of those things. Okay.
Sorcery, magic.
It is. It is kind of like weird. I mean, that's the Beatles, or like Sting. Sting, like, or the Police wrote the catchiest hooks. Like, like just the first line, Roxanne. You're like, it'll never leave your head.
Do you think that it started and it was like, you know, when you're like, I don't know if this happens. I don't know if this happens to you with like martial arts, but with like acting, it's like when you get in the zone and you're like in it. It's great. It's also like quite scary because you're like this close to being totally out of control, or like you are a little bit out of control. And it's like this like great weird like we used to have an improv teacher he wasn't improv, but he taught us like crazy comedy, like high comedy and stuff, and do masks, and he would always like really push us to just like go beyond, and everybody would be like the funniest. They weren't funny at all as a person, and I would see like we would all like literally pee our pants like laughing because they were just so hysterical, and they would come out of it and everyone was like, I blacked out, I have no idea what happened. Like, do you know what I mean?
So what you're saying is like when they're writing those catchy songs,
I'm like, do you think they got scared? They're like, oh, another one's coming.
Do run, do run. So I remember someone was talking to me, and from something like that happened to me about like writing a hook.
Yeah.
And like we're was one of my friends' weddings. We were talking about pop songs, or one of my friends was getting married, and I was talking about writing a hook, and then they were like, yeah, if you were to write a hook, what would it be? And like right from out of nowhere, my hook was, me and you, we got doing to do.
Yes, continue.
And
yes, continue.
That's it. And that's my $1 million.
I love it.
Me and you, we got doing to do.
Some of the most fun I had during quarantine is my roommate is a musician. He's also like my brother, and I like love him. And he has like a little recording studio, and so he would just like make these beats or like a track or whatever, and then he would just like have me just go ape shit. We would just make we just made a lot of crazy club. I don't think I showed you this, but did I show you the club song that I made for babies?
No.
Well,
we would have talked about that right when I hit play. I'd have been like, "So you made a club song for babies, huh? This is Sonia. You might know Sonia."
It's called the Puppetsburg Goodbye Song, and it's It's a German hedgehog and a German cow called Hans and Greta, and then like, "Hello babies, my name is Hans." I know you hate the accents. You maybe can't listen to it because it's all in a German accent.
Have you heard Rory Scovel? Do you know Rory Scovel? Rory Scovel has a comedy bit, and so he has 2 accents that he comes out with, like in his old bits, a long time ago. And he would sometimes come out just in a crazy Southern, like Carolina accent, or he would come out in a German accent.
Yeah.
And then one of his times he's out in his German accent, and just from nowhere he's just talking just random, and then just from out of nowhere he just goes, "Are there any babies here?" And he just starts walking through the crowd looking for a baby, and yeah, it's pretty great.
My favorite stupid joke is that like wishing somebody like has a baby and you're like, "Oh, I hope it's healthy," and like, I really hope it comes out young.
When you're in New York, this is something that I'm always interested about people from California.
Yes.
You grew up cream of the crop, best food in the world.
Yeah.
Best food. New York's good though.
It's good if you have money.
It's good if you have money, and it's a little bit more decadent than here. Like here, it's like just great tomato, eat it.
Yeah, New York is like you learn the spots that are like, especially if you're like not made of money, you learn the spots that are like, this is the most amazing place to get momos for $7, and it's like this like
Momos. Indian dumplings.
Yeah.
I love momos.
Momos like Momo.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I mean also from Avatar, Momo.
Yeah.
Yeah, momos are so good. This place was like legendary. It was a Tibetan spot, or like, yeah, you just get all your little spots around the city, and then, yeah.
Have you been to Dending Dumpling here?
No.
Fremont?
Mm-mm. It's weird because like I'm from here, but then like in high school, like what did I really like do? Like, I don't know. I mean, I would go around.
What can you do?
It's not like you can do stuff.
Yeah.
And then, I'd come home for like, I think I came home like 1 or 2 summers, but besides that, aside from these 4 months, I haven't actually been in California for more than like 2 weeks, or a week or so, at a time, so I'm sort of like weirdly a local, and then people will be like, pre-pandemic, like, what's a cool bar? And I'm like, the one that we used to go to.
We left here at 18, right? 19?
Yeah. 18, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so.
Right.
I mean, what would you know other than like...
The place that didn't really card us.
Yeah, exactly. And God forbid, like, anyone over the age of 25 ever needs to go to those places.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I remember I worked at one, like, fancy restaurant down on 4th Street one summer, and people would always ask me for recommendations, and I was like,
Sage's house? His parents are out of town? Yeah.
Right? Is there a party going on? Actually, you know what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some kids out here right now, and they're letting me, it's like, it's weird because there's this whole underground of kind of sound, SoundCloud musicians, these people are, hundreds of thousands of, people are, subscribing to them and stuff. And a lot of it's coming out of Oakland, and, these guys, I'm training some of them, these kids, I've known them forever. And, now they're producing them and stuff, and it's weird seeing the art that's coming out, because I love, I don't know if you know this, but I'm a middle-aged man. What? And it's hard for us when we get, seriously, no, seriously.
Yeah.
it's hard for us, like, it's funny when you talk to other people my age, because they're always like, when you ask them what they're listening to or what they're even doing, like even like a lot of people, like they're still going to the same restaurants that they were going in college, or eating the same kind of food, or they're listening to the same band. You know, it's like if you ask people my age, oftentimes like, what are you listening to? It's like Smashing Pumpkins, Pearl Jam, or like Tribe. You know what I mean? That's what, like where we're stuck at. So I think one of the best things about working at Destiny and knowing all the youngins is just like just being able to see new art. Because if you're not around new art, it's like life gets it's kind of boring.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I can always tell when I haven't been around new art in a while, because when I find it again, you know, like it takes a while to find the new album that like really captures. You're like, there's something in me that like, it's like a very physical thing where I'll be like, oh, and I can feel my mind being like, and I'm like, oh no, it's been a long time since I felt that's really bad. What have we been doing? Gilmore Girls.
Yeah, you've been Gilmore Girls.
I mean, but
but okay, so this
actually, I just saw Gajillionaire, which was,
what is that?
It's a new Miranda July movie with Evan Rachel Wood and what is her name? The girl from Jane the Virgin.
I don't know anything that you're talking about.
Evan Rachel Wood? No? 13?
No.
Okay. Well, anyway, you would actually, I mean, it might be too, I don't know if it would be your thing, but it's about a family of con artists. A mother, a father, and a daughter, and they live in like a office building in Los Angeles that is next to a bubble factory. And so 3 times a day, the bubbles just, it's amazing. It's like this huge, the whole wall, the bubbles just descend. Like this leak, they live there for super cheap because there's like a bubble leak that just like happens that they have to like clean up, and then they get involved with this other woman. And but the best thing about it is that they're all really bad at conning. They are like professional con artists. It's all they do. It's all she's ever known. It's all her parents do, and they're not great at it.
How about, I have a movie. I'll actually send you a link to it. The guy that I just did the big 3 with, this guy Baz, and he's
Lerman?
No, close. He's a piercer.
Oh, cool.
He's covered from head to toe in tattoos. Him and his wife have a tattoo shop in Ireland.
Wow.
But he's written books. He's written movies. He's winning all these awards. He's an actor. He's done stand-up comedy. He's a piercer. He's a musician. He's a great martial artist. I mean, this guy he never stops. He's just intense, right? Yeah. And he just put out a movie. I love listening because Irish dudes are they tell stories. Like, it's just like storytellers. Yeah. And he just did a short film on Irish mermaid lore. Like, it's like on these old stories. I didn't know that there was like a whole lore around like Irish mermaids. So he just did a short film on that called Merrow, Merrow.
That's dope.
What are you on any jobs now?
No. I just finished that Audible thing that I was telling you about.
You've been doing Audible books?
It was a podcast that my friends wrote that got picked up by Audible. So they had it was like a 200-page script or something. So I played. It was
like a play?
It was like a parody of like the Master Lecture series kind of thing. So
what was your lecture?
I played a variety of characters, but the most main character I played was a space cat? Unclear. Space animal called Teeny that everyone loved. I just made a lot of noise. Like, I didn't speak a lot. I just made like a lot of different noises for Teeny.
200 pages of noises?
Well, the weirdest thing is, like, in this is like, not the first time that this...
And they're like, no!
Yes, no, but actually... But the weirdest thing is that this is not the first time that this has happened to me, where somebody who knows me quite well will, like, hit me up and be like, I'm making this thing, and I, have this part, and, it's perfect for you, and, we're so excited to bring you in for it. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, anytime anybody writes me something for me, I'm like, fuck yeah. And then I get it, and it's literally just all like... and I'm like... I put out that vibe.
Yeah, you put out the vibe of yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's not the first time it's been and the role is entirely in gibberish. Other people speak for pages upon pages upon pages of monologues and scenes. Only gibberish.
I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, yeah, that was the day when I came out of my room. My parents were like, "What? What are you doing?" And then they'd be like, "Can you just like be an orc?" And I'd be like yelling like as like a weird orc or like I was a Cyclops cat, the French Cyclops cat
on radio.
This is all on radio. And then because I don't have a closet, I was like under a blanket for the whole day, just like doing like weird noises. Life is so weird. Every time I'm doing any sort of like acting thing, I'm like, it's never not weird.
Is it good that you have, again, the movement thing? Is it good that you went away, you kind of saw what you like to do, but then it just stops? Because I personally would have probably benefited more, because like after high school for me, it was go. I mean, 12 years old, it was go. Yeah. And then I didn't stop. And then once I could finally stop and just sit, I realized like I was only producing to produce, and then I was only working to work, and I was as long as I was working, I was happy. But but what I realized is I was working so hard, I wasn't really getting much in return. So it was like, I mean, technically, I don't think I've ever made more than minimum wage in my life, because the amount of time that I work versus like what really happens. Yes, I'd get paid technically more than minimum wage, but the amount of production that I put into everything. So
I mean, you just summed it up, I think, New York. And it's interesting, I was just talking to a friend of mine who's like a brilliant actor and has done, he doesn't think he's successful, but I know that he's successful, you know, that kind of thing. And he, we were just texting, and he was like, it's weird, I haven't thought about acting in 6 months, and I've been really happy. Which is like, he's one of the last people I would have ever thought would say that, you know? I think it's been phase-ish, you know? Like, I think there's been moments where I was like, it feels good not to get rejected all the time, because that's a lot of what acting is just getting rejected all the time. And then there's been moments where I'm like, it is such a part of like who I am and like what I like need to do to be like, you know, like you need to do your push-ups, you know, I gotta like, you know, work. That it's been really, really hard. But
is there any like exercise thing or something that you do to keep your chops up?
I mean, like, it's really just, like, to the detriment of everyone who I live with, you know? Because it's just, like, bits on bits on bits on bits on bits. I guess less so with my parents, but sometimes. But usually, like, my roommates who I used to live with, I would just, like, you know, take out all my acting on them. I used to do this thing to them they really hated, which was that I would try to run my lines with them, but they did not know that we were running lines. And so, like, and sometimes the scene would be like, I really need to talk to you, like, please don't be upset. I just, like, and they would be like, what? And then they would realize halfway through, and they'd be like, I feel so violated.
You're running.
I feel so violated. It's like, no, but it's good for me to see how much you just don't think it looks like I'm trying to remember the words.
All right, speaking of weird art. So I'm trying to do this thing on advocacy right now for the courses. And so part of it was I was working with this missing persons guy, and then I had to dive into a couple things, like the pimp handbook, and just how, you know, how this type of person manipulates another certain type of person and how they choose those people, right?
Yes. And I did a lot of research on that for the Deuce, actually.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of research specifically the 70s. Because it took place in like the 70s, 80s. It was so interesting.
It's weird because it's like I love doing it because it's like, you know, the women that hang out here are just like brilliant and super powerful, and you know, it's like,
oh my god, thank you.
And you wouldn't fall for it, you know what I mean? But it's really funny. So I would be like, I remember like learning some of the manipulation techniques, and just being like, okay, here we go.
Are you the hostage or am I the hostage?
No, I don't know anymore. I don't know what's real. I don't know. So it's like Inception in this. This is the craziest big three of them all. I don't even know if it's a big 3 million, big 3 to the third power. But so I would try certain things, or I'd be reading like certain manipulation techniques. I'm like, and I'd just be thinking like, you know, Annika was just here, or Marsha was just here, or someone, and I'm like, he wouldn't fall for that for us.
Like what?
Just kind of like, just trying to play people against each other and you know and all that stuff, and it's sort of playing on people's insecurities and things like that. You know, so it. But that being said, like the reason why I'm doing this is I have a lot of young people. You know, kind of I met you when you were a kid, and like a big part of that is you weren't fodder for that, but you probably will know people or cross people that are, and so like when you guys are out in New York and you see some DJ, you know, starting to be weird, and you know, it's like it's time to be able to advocate for that person and be like, hey, let's go over here, or like know how to run proper.
Oh yeah.
You know.
No, I feel like that Destiny taught us that. I remember them being like, here's how you need to walk down the street.
Yeah.
And I think I told you this about like living in certain, like when I lived in this neighborhood in London, and this girl was always just like, I just get harassed all the time, and she was like very pretty and like always like, you know, and I was like, don't walk like that.
Don't do that.
Just don't, you know.
I remember you sent me an email one time just being like, hey, thanks.
Oh yeah. That was the craziest thing, because I was like, I can't believe I remembered how to do. You taught me in like, it was like one day. You taught me like, you know, just like self-defense things. I was like drunk, and it suddenly, and it was like a year later, and I was like, shum, shum, shum. It's like so surprising. It's like everyone needs to know that though. Yeah. I wish that I was actually like, obviously I'm not qualified to like teach that, but I wish that I was, because I feel like that would be.
Well, the main thing you're qualified for is the avenues for help, right? So it's like, for example, like if you were abused, I'm not going to try to fix you, but I'm going to say, here, I can, like, you come to me, I'm going to take you and I can walk you to the places where you can get help, right? And if you need to run anything by me, I can talk to you and I can be like, well, let's talk to this person. Or, you know, so I think the best way is to be able to look at your friends and just be like, don't walk like that. Here, stand up straight with me. You know, it's sort of like, what is the gentle way of grabbing your friend and like shaking them and screaming, maintain? You know, because there's so many little like wannabe cults and internet marketers and all the, like the cult world and the snake oil salesman is always changing, right? But it's always the same tricks.
Well, it's so crazy too when it's like on your Instagram, and like I've like, I notice also it's like an indicator of where my brain is at if I'm like been scrolling aimlessly, and then suddenly it's like I'm in a trance, and suddenly I'm like, oh my god, I almost just spent like $50 on mushroom powder. Like, what's happening? You know, like this tool that says my legs will look vaguely more defined if I buy it. It's just like a little like, you know, I'm like, oh wow.
I read this study on the 5 most effective workout programs.
Okay, yeah.
And it's funny that the best one was just had you eating right and exercising 6 days a week. And then the second best one had you eating right, and then the next 4 were eating right, and when I say eating right, everyone knows what I'm talking about. This is the thing. Like, people are like, what do I eat? You know.
Right, yeah.
And you're just eating that, limiting calories and, you know, the good stuff in, and working out 5 days a week. And those are the second place ones. And that's it. Like, the rule is just notice the barrier to entry. Like, there's no one is going to go on and tell you the secret to making $1 million without working. You know what I mean? It's like, there is no, like, there's no barrier to entry.
Well,
everyone will be doing it.
To make $1 million, you just have to be born as a millionaire.
Yeah, your granddaddy has to invent something really cool.
No, I think that I think that's really true. And I think that it's kind of that thing where it's like, it's because it, like, the reason you don't like it is because it kind of sucks. Like, you maybe you get used to it. Yeah. But, like, I think you're like, oh, I tried that and it was not fun, but this one looks fun. And you're like,
well, it's selling novelty. It's tapping into all these insecurities, and kind of freaks me out. I mean, this is why I'm loving these conversations, and I'm loving, like, I kind of, you know, this quarantine, it sort of made me completely stop doing everything that I do when I sit around like this. I mean, everything you got is relationships.
Yeah.
That's it. And then if you can take responsibility for yourself, and then you don't walk around like food, you know, like, the secret to longevity is not getting your ass whooped and being nice to people, and there's all these other things. Really, most of us just need to walk like we have purpose. And martial arts is like the path to that, right? It's just
Right.
figure out who you are. It's just like acting. There's some kind of weird repercussions. Like when we're on stage, like we have to count on each other.
Oh yeah.
When you're holding pads or you're wrestling with, you have to count on each other. And you have to trust each other.
Yeah.
The only difference is martial arts. It's more conversational and it's more feeling. Like there's, I'm trying to interrupt you more. You're trying to solve problems. There's a little bit. I don't want to say there's more stress because I've fought and I've been on stage and they both have had their time, right? The hardest part of fighting is walking to the line. But when you're on stage, like, because fighting, you mess up, you just correct, right? Or you lose. But on stage, when you mess up, holy shit.
If you have good people with you, you'll probably be okay. But yeah, I think that some of the craziest experiences I've had on stage have been when I've either understudied or filled in for people, because you basically have maybe a week, maybe a few days, and then like you've drilled those lines to oblivion, like you've drilled everything to oblivion, but you're just never going to be ready, and you're not all walking in it together not knowing. It's like everyone knows what they're doing except for you.
Except you.
And so it's just like this crazy thing where you're like, oh my god, and then you get on and it's like this weird, like it just all comes out of your mouth. It just like all happens, but it's like, I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it. It's like jumping off a cliff.
Yeah. Well, that's that's a good band. Like when you're with a good band, I
thought you were gonna be like, jumping off a cliff is a great band.
It's just like jumping off a cliff. You heard their new album? Speaking of music, there's when you're playing with a good band, it's like no one's gonna let you fall. When you watch, like, I can't stand. Theater to me kills me. I can't watch it, but I've seen it a million times. Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. Something about the voices, and I don't like drama.
Do you feel that way about TV and movies too? I know you don't watch a lot of TV.
I don't watch a lot of TV, but I do. I got really into Frasier.
I've never seen it except for like the iconic thing where he like is ironing and he like lights his whole.
Oh yeah.
It's like the most epic bit of physical comedy.
So probably I like that era of television, like the 70s through the like early 90s TV, because it's very similar. It was like theater.
Yeah.
Longer takes.
Yeah.
And multicam, but but they didn't have to talk like they're in theater because they were mic'd up.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit more natural. I think that's what it is. Is like when you have to project like that, it just kind of messes with me.
Yeah, but there is something about. They've done like studies where it's like when people are all in a theater, everybody's heart beats at the same thing. I think there's something about being in a room together. I also will just watch anything. Like I've only once left a show, I think, in my whole life. Like even if it's horrible, like I just get some. Maybe you feel that way about music. I just get something out of watching it. I'm always thinking about it, and like I'm just like I'll sit and watch pretty much anything, but I can't sit through like weird movies.
Okay, I was a stagehand, and I enjoyed theater when I was a stagehand because I could be. I liked watching the production of it.
Yeah.
And it was cool because I would get into watching it.
Yeah.
Because when I was a stagehand, I started appreciating it more.
Right.
But yeah, so far I haven't seen anything that's really gotten. I've done kind of the basics. Probably would like the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
Saw Rent.
Oh. Okay.
Never want to.
Well,
Rent kind of ruined it all for me.
It's like being like, I don't really like rock because
Yeah,
listen to the Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
It's like,
oh God, yeah. So I've tried. Les Mis. I've seen all the classics.
One day in another world, when you go to New York and I'm there, and there are theaters again, I'll take you to an actually good show, because those aren't.
Yeah.
I could see why you would see that and be like.
I've seen like the things, like I know a lot of actors, and I've been in rooms like this when they're working things out.
Oh yeah.
And they get really intense.
Oh yeah.
And I feel it.
Yeah.
I think what it is it's probably that it's like the bigness of it and the way they have to project, but like when I'm in it, it's like opera. Like if you I can't listen to opera.
I think
But if I'm in the room with opera, it's it's crazy. It blows my mind.
Right, because you're like, I mean, I'm not an opera person, but you're witnessing something that's just so. I wonder what you would feel about going to like a smaller, like 150 seat, 200 seat.
I've been to a few.
Yeah.
I just have to go to the right one. So did you learn what your big three might be?
I don't know. I guess acting. I don't know, because it's like this movement thing was interesting to me. I think like learning.
What is your movement? You like dancing? You like martial arts?
Yeah, I guess it was like the like moving through, like I think the growth, like learning. Does that count as a thing?
I think you're now on your own. You got to jump into the workforce, and then I think you're on your take two where you're like, now I want to seek things.
Yes.
So you're seeking now, which is, I think, one of the coolest places to be.
Yeah, I'm also like at a point where like I've, always been quite like self-deprecating and self-conscious, and I'm like at a point in my life where I'm like, what if we just don't?
Yeah.
And like I think like as much as I always cringe when people are like, I'm gonna move and it's gonna be a new leaf and I'm gonna change.
You're gonna like eat, pray, love your way to.
As much as whenever people say that, it makes me intensely nervous, because I'm like, this sounds like a recipe for disaster. I feel like I'm like, this is like a moment to just,
be still.
Or start over. Well, I think I've been so intensely still. I feel for the first time in a long time, like my motor is like turning back on,
When I would music direct for bands,
mm-hmm.
one of my rules was try to meet up at like 10, 11 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're in the room and then there's like, drinking and it's late at night, there's kind of like this energy there.
Yeah.
And the novelty of it and all that stuff makes us start creating, and that's really good. But what I would challenge myself on is if I can't just wake up and do it,
mm-hmm.
it's not me yet.
Right.
And I think this stillness and this stopping is making people really ask, like, what am I?
I'm learning, because I think I've always kind of like joked, or not so much joked, about like how I like watch way too much television, and I'm very like many people are way too addicted to my phone, and like I'm learning, I'm like, this is a way that I don't want to be here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's escaping. Yeah.
It's escaping, and I often think about like how much I used to write, and like I write now, but not in the same way I did when I was a kid, and I didn't have a phone, I didn't have internet, I didn't in my room, and so like thinking about like just even the awareness of the fact that I'm not just like doing it just to do it, but like I'm doing it because I don't want to be here, and then like deciding like, let's be here though.
Yeah.
And it's like those moments when you like, I feel like sometimes, and especially like when I was working, like, every day was like an 18-hour day, and I was just like running around. And those moments when I would like, it was like I would almost feel myself like drop into myself. Do you know what I mean? Like all the yous that you're doing all day, and you just like drop in, and suddenly you like start thinking, and like it's almost like resonant, you know?
Yeah.
The like creative and like internal thoughts that you have, and I'm like, oh, that's like I don't know what you would call it, some sort of like force that you like have to kind of, I don't know, be quiet, or it's harder to listen to it when life is harder when you're older, or whatever it is,
mm-hmm.
that you could like so easy to push away, and like trying to let that be more of who I am, so that what you're talking about when you wake up in the morning, it's like,
what do you want to do? Or for me, it's been that quote, we're human beings, not human doings, right? And so through all this, I think one of the things that I've been really focusing on is, that's why I like this work, because I'm not really trying to do anything right now. I'm just kind of being, and then I wake up and I do my thing, but I edit this stuff, but I edit in the dojo, and I just kind of
mm-hmm.
train when I want to train. And like when I'm listening to these things, I've learned so much. I learned a lot about myself when I was recording myself as a musician.
Mm-hmm.
When you watch yourself on tape,
yes.
When you and it's teaching me and like who I am, and I think these conversations are, like I think we should start asking, like, not what do you want to do when you grow, but like what do you need to be?
Do you want to be?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think, there's definitely days when I'm not on my game where I watch myself back and, like, all I can see is somebody who's, like, hiding. Like, I'm like, it's somebody who doesn't want to stand behind whatever lines that they're saying. Like, it's sort of just, like, dodging it. And then the, like, sort of in the same way of, like, this snake oil exercise thing, I start, my like, lazy brain starts going down a million complicated routes of, like, how I can fix this that ends up, like, going to, like, and I need to go to therapy and get a life coach and, like, sort out my personality. And then, like, the reality is, it's like, oh, I just, like, wasn't actually doing anything. Well, I was, like, pretending to do things, but it's, like, this guy that I'm studying with right now, his whole thing is, like, kind of mind-blowing, because he's just, like, his technique is so simple and it, like, really works, and it takes, like, an eighth of the amount of time that it used to take me to prepare for things.
Yeah.
Which, as someone who's like, I will just work longer than you will. It's, like, very crazy to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're just, like, doing. It's hard to get the thought of, like, whatever it is you're going to do in the scene, your, like, action or whatever, but, like, but once you're doing it, you're like, oh, that fixes everything. It's just hard to get there.
Yeah, it's about starting, and it's also, I think whenever we are in this kind of work, it's about movement, and I think so many times we think there's a way to fix something, but really, even in body work and martial arts, or when you're trapped, you're not trying to solve the problem right now. I'm just trying to create some sort of movement. Like, if I can make a little bit of space, then, it's a conversation. Like, we just need to interact, and then it kind of goes. But if I'm trying to, like, guide you in any certain place, then it kind of stops everything. So, yeah.
Yeah. Did I talk to you about that, like, TV show I was watching about the cult? No?
No.
It's the Nixium. It's this, like, it was marketed as, like, an executive training program.
Yeah, there's a lot of those right now.
Yeah, but then it became this, like, crazy sex cult and blah, blah, all these things. But, all these people keeping, like, I didn't join a cult, and they were, like, a lot of them were super successful and all these things, but they all had this thing in common, which is, like, the world just didn't feel like it made sense. And then here's someone who showed me how it did make sense. But the truth is, like, it don't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't have to.
Yeah. And I think that's, like, so much harder to sit with, but it's also, like, the thing versus, like, all the weird,
Well, and we're trying to make it make sense, but it's like, if you're trying to, then you're sort of bound by your own lens as opposed to just listening to what's really happening, because not a lot of what we do makes sense, even in, like, the academic sense.
Yeah.
Like, if you really think about what's really going on all the time, none of that should make sense to you. Like even in the world of, what doesn't make sense to me is, like, we think actors are more important than plumbers. Like, that doesn't make sense.
It makes perfect sense to me.
Well, I mean, totally, come on. But, it's like our...
Essential workers. It's in the fucking name. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
No, this is what I'm talking about. And so it doesn't make sense. The idea is it's all story, and it's all, we have to... I think what it is we've been removed so much from our actual abilities to contribute to our communities.
Yeah.
Of course nothing makes sense. You're not contributing anything. We've just walled off into our televisions or our phones, and then when you walk out, you're like, well, I made money. Why am I not part of this community? It's like, you didn't do this. We didn't make tea. We didn't, like, there's all these other things.
Right. I know. I was talking to my dad about how... we were talking about how, like, some of the satellites that are out, in the world, not in the world, but, in outer space, have less technology than your phone. And I was like, it's sort of, in some ways we could be like, oh my God, it's crazy. But it's like, people were in those. People were in those and they came back to Earth. Which to me just proves this whole thing of, like, yes, technology helps with a lot of things, but how necessary are some of these things, like not having a volume dial, like it's like the lie of, like, progress, like, it makes it better when it's like, but we could do that with that much technology. I'm sure they're much safer now than they were then. I don't know, I would assume, but
until it needs to upgrade, and then nothing works with it again.
Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah.
So I mean, well, that's one of the things. It's like the self-driving car was there to where now you can have time to what? Do more work, to create more work, to get busier, to remove yourself. You know, it's like to now not even be present in the simple task of knowing how to get you and maybe the people that you care about to and from places that can actually give them resources. So just like with any tool, just like with a camera or with a guitar or with anything that you're doing, it's your relationship with the tool. Because if you think the guitar is what makes you good at guitar,
right,
you're a fool.
You're a freaking fool.
That's what a fool believes.
No, it's true. It's totally true. And it makes me think also, like, I mean, obviously the disparity of wealth has to do with a lot of other things, but in the ideal world, it's like you have more time so that you spend it with your family and you help your community or something, right? Like that would be like the fantasy, and it's like we have more time and exactly, like what do we do?
What'd you do with it?
With it, yeah.
Let's get out of here.
Okay, was it good?
Can I give you a round of applause?
Sure. Can I give you one back?
I guess. That was Sonia Mena. She's rad. Thanks for watching Big 3. What is it? What do they have to say? What do you say at the end of YouTube? Like, follow, will you say?
Oh yeah. Thank you so much for tuning into Big 3. Make sure to like or follow or subscribe. Click the link right down here. And share it. If you subscribe, it really helps my channel. So thank you guys so much. Stop.
Oh, all right, we're done.